Good morning. Maya. David. So I'm going to ask you guys to bear with me like I always do. As I try to talk about something I can't talk about. And also that has tremendous effects in the nervous system here. Dr. Hawkins, when he would begin to approach the speaking of uncaused love at the heart of the universe, at the heart of matter, would sometimes just fully break down and say, the talk has to necessarily end. So I'm keeping him in heart today. So I think I'm going to start with a little bit of reading. The first one is from Hafiz, Sufi. And I read this at the retreat with Ani. I've been contemplating and reflecting and holding it dear. It's called Tripping Over Joy. What is the difference between our experience of existence and that of a saint? The saint knows that the spiritual path is a sublime chess game with God, and that the beloved has just made such a fantastic move that the saint is now continually tripping over joy and bursting out in laughter and saying, I surrender. Whereas, my dear, I'm afraid we still think we have 1,000 serious moves. I've been really mystified, honestly. It's been kind of mystifying, just because, not in any kind of judging way at all, just truly wondering, because we go by our direct experience. I mean, that's what really is the actual view. It's covered a lot of the times with our ideas about our direct experience, but nevertheless. And here, the primordial ground of being that is timeless, changeless, ineffable, beyond. That realization gave rise to, and I didn't know these words prior to the experience. I wasn't trained in Tantra or anything like that. But it gave rise to the vast, electrifying Shakti Ma of the universe. That is undeniable joy and uncaused love. Even in my life, this personal life flows on. It flows on with many human experiences that we would consider to be challenging, and that I share with all of you. And it's such a deep solace to be able to share with people, whatever it might be, nerve pain, persecution from family members. I mean, it goes on. Things that have been difficult. But there is, it's difficult to speak about because it really gets going here. It's a verb and a current, embodied, that I don't see very often. I mean, to be really, really honest, even with those who have a deep glimpse of the ground, there's still somewhat of a dedication, or I don't know, to the 1,000 serious moves. The 1,000 serious moves. It's not out of body. It's very, very beyond wildest imagination embodied. When somebody was up here reading Aja and he said, I don't know anything, but I am. That might sound casual, you know, maybe that sounds casual. That's not casual. That is, let there be light brought into consciousness. That's the stirring of the dark ground, and the very first word, the beginning, the Genesis. Boom, I am. The Big Bang. Creation. Animation, the animating, sustaining, maintaining, giving birther of the universe, the principle that maintains it all, sustains it and gives it in every instant of conscious awareness. And we have 1,000 serious moves. I'm not judging us. I'm wondering. I'm curious about this because what I see sometimes is still a tendency to, and maybe not with us, I don't know, please hear me. I'm not pointing fingers. But we have to face our 1,000 serious moves, our orientations, our ideas that are still clouding our mirrors. That life itself, there can be a tendency to believe, even after deep realization, deep seeing, possibly even the empty center, to still subscribe to scarcity, effort to receive, good, we must be good, we must be effortful, we must be something in order to receive. What is never not here is breathing, is living, is displaying, is taking the elements of creation and weaving it into like cellular celebration. Because we have these leftover remnants of self-importance, like the quote from Einstein. You know, we can't be liberated if we are still entertaining a selfhood. We have these leftover remnants. The it comes on in, both sides, a lack of unworthiness, or the world doesn't love me. However our personal flavor shows up. And also the flip side of that is self-importance, intellectual arrogance, competition, comparison, false modesty, a unwillingness to shine as what one is in the name of false modesty, which is not the same thing as humility. That's not the same thing. I think another piece of this is that it's become co-opted, and I'm actually probably not speaking to anyone here, but just for the sake of this, it's become co-opted by the glamour of Tantra. And we know where that's gone. We see it every single day on the internet. Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Another teacher betraying his students, her students, whatever, with the whole opening of the second chakra and, the idea of Tantra, the idea of it, rather than the actuality of the alchemical inseparability of opposites that is embodied in each of us right here, right now. I'm not speaking about gender. I'm speaking about what gives rise to gender, gives rise to orientation, animates prana, animates chi. That which says, okay, here's the world. God so loved the one and only creation that he gave it his image, her image. I don't care what pronouns. I don't care. The image, the face of God. Heaven is spread upon the earth for those who have eyes to see. I feel like, and I spent many years in this, in what I'm about to describe, a subtle escapism, like the earth is just one of those lowly realms. There's heaven and, the ascended master realms and the star beings and all the rest. And here is division and war. Well, only because there is the existence of a separate belief in self. That's it. The earth is the greatest bodhisattva around. I mean, this came forward at the retreat in Colorado. She's, basically in a hospice situation, and she gives us everything. It's not really about escaping the earth. Learning from, possibly. So I'm curious, I'm wondering, what stands between a embodied conscious realization of the uncaused love and joy at the heart of matter, and our lived experience. And I'm not talking about like a syrupy, insincere, pretentious, it's all good in the face of like horrible things. I'm not speaking about that. It's paradoxical that it all goes, it's simultaneous. But also with the deep realization of who one actually is at the heart is the freedom, the freedom, the freedom to live as love. Wholeheartedly. That yearning, that longing that was was brought forward at satsang last night. That authentic depth and capacity to live without resistance, in total cooperation as is. Because, see, when we attempt, and it's beautiful, it's noble and innocent, to bear the world in our human heart, that's what tune into any of the radio songs. That's the heartbreak. The heartbreak. And that's a beautiful thing as a human to experience, I mean, experientially, it's like this, such a gift to have a human heart, that coming and going heart, that opening and closing heart. But if we are to, as Jen was pointing out, be the birthers, the generative cauldron, the alchemical potential for what Eckhart Tolle calls the new earth, but it's really the original earth, then we have to be anchored in the silent, still ground and rise as the heart of the universe and see the world as that, from that. Gaze upon the world from her eyes as that. And the saint is tripping around, laughing, and I surrender. Okay. It's counterintuitive to our ego structures, for sure, because it's unimaginable. It's beyond imagination, beyond vision, beyond any of that. So, to just surrender what will a lot of times come in, it did here, was like, well, what will that look like if we just all decide not to stand for anything? Like what? But that's just not the way it is. It's not the way it is. It's that we opinions and belief structures become less and less believable and relevant and interesting. And what's actually presenting becomes more and more and more and more the face of love, lovability itself, compassion, not somebody in here generating it, manufacturing it. That's not a bad thing. Nothing against us all trying to understand one another. Whoa, wouldn't that be something? It just doesn't happen. There's a, there's a brightness. It's interesting because Michael introduced that gospel thread, and then Jayashree was bringing it forward too. So like all the old gospel songs that I used to sing with the choir, like just running through all the time. There will be, there will be, there will be a light. There will be. There is. So even in the midst of these realizations and the direct experience of the ground, shimmering potential of all that is, the empty center, that which dances, that informs, gives way of itself and informs, is inherently, intrinsically love and joy itself. Does it get completely manipulated, controlled, obscured here by the ideas of a separate self? Yes. Yes, it's not in denial of horror, but it isn't giving way to horror. That comes next. It's like, it's the substance, the actuality, and then it gets stamped by the ego structure into these little cookie cutter forms of like me, you, they, them, us, division, my side, your side, that. Am I coming across at all? Okay. Okay. A lightness of being. The Tibetans call it a basic goodness, but they don't mean a goodness that's in opposition to a badness. It's like it has no opposite. There is no opposite to source. That the apparent opposites are in the realm of duality, but it all comes together. It all comes together as a supreme wholeness. It truly is like an alchemical inseparability that then begins to dance as let there be light. I've said it a lot. It's probably getting stale for some of you, but it was just, how you just have some experiences that are just formative. They're life changes after some experiences. It's never the same again. And I thank God for this experience because I have the sense that it was the ground for this inexhaustible sense of love and joy that is now here. Through all circumstances. There was a moment, I don't know, it was timeless, okay? It's one of those things where it was very directly experienced that the universe, what we call the universe, the dream of creation, does not have to exist. It exists out of love. The ground of being is just fine. Just the ground of being, that's all. And it would be, I don't like the word void. It's not the sense, it's not the word that describes the experience here, but a complete no thing, itness, absolute peace. And then it would flash into existence. The whole tapestry. One thing, it's one thing. There's only one thing happening. And then, kind of like maybe the in and out breath or something. And there was a deep recognition that the bridge is love at the heart of being. You go home. Go home. We go home. It's a homecoming. It's not a it feels like home. It's lived from and as home from that moment on. There's no division. There's no reason for war. Don't get me wrong. I'm not claiming sainthood. There can still be tendencies to push, but the compass, the roadmap is just no longer that. It just was a remnant that'll come through, and I know love will take care of it because she has no other agenda. So this is rhetorical. Maybe we can talk about it at another time, but so why are we still bummed out? What's the deal? I mean, I really want to know. I don't get it. I mean, and I'm not saying that from a perfect life. I can pull out the litany: deep nerve pain, physical degeneration, and persecution from my family. The teaching role is super interesting. A lot of ins and outs there with projection and all. Sharon told me at the very beginning, your job is to bump up against people's ego structure. And I was like, oh boy, okay. That ought to be fun. What do we really want, you know? I wonder, those of us with all of the resources on the planet, what it would be like if we were moved from and as this love and joy. What would that look like? I wonder about that. Oh, anyway, I could be soapboxy. I'm not going to go there. So yeah, there is a conscious decision to not talk about Tantra and all that because I just feel like it's such a minefield, Tantra, Kundalini, that whole thing. That is how this occurred. But it's like, you know, it's very rare to encounter a deeply, deeply rooted, empty, of a deeply rooted hollow reed. It's rare, so I generally don't, pull it out. But it's really what resonates here most deeply. It's what downloaded into the psyche when it all blew out. The union of Shakti and Shiva, the union of form and formlessness. It's not even a union. It's the recognition of the inseparability, that which has never been divided and can never be divided. These are the Vajrayana Bhairava Tantras, the Radiance Sutras. I love them. They resonate so deeply. I thought I would read a few. It's a conversation between the ground of being and she who rises. And I don't mean a gender. The she, capital S, capital H, capital E, it just comes in that way. It's all of us. Whatever your orientation may be, whatever your anatomy may be, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I use all kinds of things for bookmarks. And this particular bookmark says Jan Cressy. A little heartfelt. Must be off something she sent me. I love it. Abandon all these attitudes of wanting to prolong pleasure and avoid suffering. Let the heart be itself and feel whatever is there. Freed from clinging and avoiding, the heart regains its poise and revels in creation. Plunging deep into its center, discover that the heart is moved by a pulse that is everywhere. Holiness permeates everywhere. Senses cannot grasp it. Images cannot represent it. It is totally free, free to appear as form, free to be beyond form. Heart and body and mind together, attending to the unimaginable. In the interchange of unknowable and known, an awakening will be born in you as you join with that reality, which you already are. Native of eternity, at home in infinity, breathing immortality. Let these words sing in every cell, oceans of splendor, luminous energies of creation, pulsating everywhere, always. Hear these astounding words continually, each phrase an invocation, and let the sounds ripple through you. Resonate with the all-pervading hum of truth, and know every fleeting moment is supported by forever. Friends, relatives, neighbors, people who abide in your village, city, country, be not concerned with their attitudes towards these teachings. Everyone is discovering the intimate universe in their own way. This nectar is here within every breath, every desire, every transition, from waking to sleeping and sleeping to waking. Once you have set out on the path of intimacy with the immortal essence of life, never turn your back on it, my shining one. Never turn away. Though every moment be surprising, revelatory, unrecognizable, and full of wonder, never turn your back on it, my shining one. Never turn away. Continue to cherish each breath. Live in gratitude for this uncaused love we imbibe, this ambrosia in each turning out breath to in breath. It's a joy to be living from and as the passion of Source. It's inherently joyful through all circumstances, and it erodes that separate sense of self, that separateness, that feeling that we don't belong, we aren't home, for whatever reason. So we balance it with that silent, still ground, yes. But we must rise or descend, however you want to think about it. The descent into the body. This is that time. This is that time. I love you.